Welcome to episode 7 of the Brave Educator podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Chen.
And I'm Rob Harsh.
So welcome. Hope everybody is having a great day. We actually have nice sunny weather here.
We do.
For the first time in a while. So it was nice to put on sunglasses this morning on the drive to work.
It was. I didn't get to do that because I don't have sunglasses, but I would have if I had them.
Hey,
we gotta say this is our first official video podcast.
Yes.
You didn't say that.
I'm sorry. Yes. This is our first official video podcast.
Seventh and all.
Yes. But if you notice our backdrop, it looks a little different. Usually we are recording on a Saturday morning in a classroom.
We don't have our makeup on.
Nope, our hair
I
done.
don't.
Yeah. Usually it's baseball caps. But if you'll notice our background is a little different. We are doing our episode 7 from the VPS podcast studio, which is this amazing space with all kinds of relics and really cool old pictures. And
yeah.
It was really nice of them to invite us in, and we were really excited to come in and have the opportunity. So thanks to the team here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? We're talking about today making on a budget, making in your classroom. How do you go about getting that started if you're interested in going that route, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So as we know, at least in the state of Washington, we had a great win at the state level with getting funding for public education, but with it there were also some significant losses, and so there are unfortunately some budget cuts going around, and so we thought it might be a good show to talk about how we make on a budget and how people can still continue that making, design, project-based learning, even if they don't have a lot of funding and a lot of managed materials
Absolutely.
that they can do on the cheap or very, very low cost, so they continue doing the innovation without worried about, not having a budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got to say, being a makerspace teacher at Ogden, I was pretty fortunate to fall into this position because I had a ton of material. I had cardboard, I had ribbon, you name it, I had it.
I know, because I've had to borrow some stuff from you, so I know that you have it.
And so thinking about if I were to, say, leave this position and go back into the gen ed classroom, I definitely look around the room and going, I would take this. Well, I can't take it. Obviously, it's the makerspace. But I would maybe repurchase this or take this idea or this material, absolutely use it. But then, you see all the things in the makerspace and it takes up space.
Absolutely.
So how do you kind of corral, or I guess rein in what you want to bring into your space?
Yes. So you're not the old cupboards filled with thousands and thousands of toilet paper rolls that you're not going to use for 30 years.
I think one of the first things that I think I would do is really go and immerse myself in the maker culture in the classroom. I mean, I am in a self-contained makerspace, but I would try and branch out and get to know people who are actually doing making in their classrooms and seeing, where did you start? What do we think is a good jumping off point?
Absolutely. And collaboration is so important, especially with making, because as with anything else, if you're doing it in isolation, it's not going to stick. It's going to be a fun project or a really cool thing that you did for a day. But if you want that whole design process and problem solving and frustration and that that permission to fail and all of those things that go along with making and design, if you want students to walk away with those skills, it has to be taught not just once a month. It has to be taught in a classroom. And so collaborating, I think, is huge in terms of that making culture and talking to teachers and saying, as a librarian, I know for me that is a really huge component of my job, is the whole collaboration, is how can I support you and the learning that's happening in your classroom, and how can we make it accessible for all students? How can we make all students be successful, or at least have a great opportunity or a great experience?
Yeah.
And so I think collaboration is, so important.
Absolutely.
But the stuff is important too, because as we all know, you have this idea for a project and you really want to do it, but then you realize you have to have stuff to, be successful.
And I think, one of the things that I would also do is start small. Literally start with a project. Gather the materials that you want to use and do the project. Do that assessment piece with the kids, asking them, hey, what did you think of this? Did you like this? Would you want to do more projects that connect to what we're doing in the classroom? And I think you're going to just see the engagement shoot up. You're going to see that connection. They're going to connect to the learning a little bit, maybe stronger, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that we get in our mind that innovation is all about the technology or the piece.
The digital technology.
Yes. And so my instructional technology facilitator, Kelsey Ask, has really kind of guided me, really kind of reshaped my whole way of thinking about it. Is innovation is not about technology. It's about thinking and doing things differently than you've done before.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the other thing about making is that, like you said about like that learning with students is, I think too, we get in our minds that an assessment is a piece of paper and it's a test and that shows that they learned the skill, and so now we can move on. But really, assessment can look very different in all classrooms.
Yeah.
As
it
long
can
as,
look different for every kid, individual student.
right, as long as you're assessing whether or not the student has these skills.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at the skills that we want students to have, that they are learning from making, things like cooperation and collaboration and problem solving, and how do you take an idea and reiterate it. When you make something and it fails the first time and it doesn't work, telling the whole like iPhone story. How many times how many iterations of the iPhone did they make before it finally took off and worked? And so I think that we have to teach our kids that, and I think that by providing them making opportunities is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, like collaborating with teacher and finding ways to connect it to what they're already learning in class. So it's not isolation.
The collaboration piece is huge. I think if you can get a fellow colleague on board and say, hey, let's try this. Here's what we're going to do, or here's what I'm thinking of doing. Here's the materials we would need. We can start really small. We don't have to, have, power drills and,
Right.
things like that
Right.
just yet. But I would definitely would do that if I go back to a self-contained classroom, middle school, elementary, wherever. I think I would take one idea and really hone that, and then do it with the students, and then get that feedback from them. And then I'm sure they'd love it. I'm sure that when kids come into the makerspace at Ogden, they just, you can see those kids that might not, I don't want to say do so well in the classroom, but then, when they come into that space, they just shine. Mm-hmm. They turn into those project leaders, and they turn into those hackers and those architects. And it's just really cool to see. So having seen it in real life, I would definitely, I don't think I could go back to just doing that, sit and get, and let's go through this packet of worksheets and yeah.
Well, I want you to talk a little bit about the project that you just completed. I know we talked about it last show about the solar panel cars, but you just had your competition. So do you want to share a little bit about how your students did?
I do.
Okay, we've got a couple, 2 minutes. Go.
So out of 77 elementary teams, Ogden's girls and boys placed second and third. The girls placed second, and the boys placed third. And then also the boys won the overall, which was based on their racing, an interview, and then their presentation of their board and their notebooks.
That
so it was
is
pretty amazing. Yeah, they were floored. They every race they kept winning and winning, and they had just these stoic looks as to say, did we just win again?
And these are students who stayed after school.
They committed,
volunteered their time.
Yeah, for about 4 or 5 weeks. I totally missing that. But yeah, they just rocked it. They rocked it.
That's incredible.
And it was so fun.
And they'll never forget it. And
I hope
that
not.
learning, the learning that they'll never forget that.
I will never forget. I was telling the co-teacher, I don't know who had more fun, me or the students. It was just the energy was high. It was at Hudson's Bay High School on a Saturday, and it was just so much fun. It was so fun. The parents came, they stayed the entire time. It was just a really cool day.
It was a positive learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in talking about making and coming up with some ideas, last year, another amazing teacher librarian, Bobby Lowe, and I put together a list of top 10 kind of ways.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, ways. And so this is on Tech Learning. We're going to put the website up on our webpage. But kind of, we said exactly what you just said. Pick a project. And I think the really important thing is you'll notice the first thing we say is ask students. I think that's one component that a lot of reasons why making projects don't succeed is because we don't always ask our students. We need to ask them, like, what are you interested in?
Give them that voice.
Right. Give them that power of taking control of their learning, because if they don't have buy-in and they don't want to build, a project, they're not going to be invested in it.
Yeah.
And so that when it bombs and it fails, they're not going to be willing to keep trying and they're going to be more willing to give up if it's not something that they have a passion around. So ask students, what are they interested in? What do they want to see? Number 2 is find your tribe, whether it be other teacher librarians or teachers or principals. Find your tribe, find other people who have those same passions and ideas that you do. Take stock of what you have. Like you said, I know that Rob's got toilet paper rolls because I have had to borrow some before for different projects. He borrows things from me. He has my.
I do. I have your Spheros and your hummingbird kits.
Right. So take stock of what you have. Be willing to loan it out. Find a partner. Find an educator in your building who's willing to partner with you.
Yeah.
And I think too, I know as a librarian, sometimes we get wrapped up in collaborating with every single person, but find one person and start there and build that community. I think number 5 is really important. Enlist community support. This is an opportunity for parents and community members to lend their expertise and come in and volunteer or even help with supplies, be the expert, or even have your students be the expert. Maybe your students know a ton about wiring, or they know a ton about building.
Well, the parents of the students too.
Exactly.
We learned the Saturday at that competition, one of the fathers is pretty skilled with mechanical engineering, and he was talking to me about this car and the wheel ratios and the gears, and I'm just going, all right, you will definitely be helping us next year. So I'm flustered, I guess, at myself that I have never thought to reach out to these parents, that they are experts in fields as well,
Exactly. Number 6, expand your network. Obviously, social media. Go to conferences. I talked about the Future Ready Librarians Facebook page. There's over 20,000 teacher librarians on the Facebook page for Future Ready. It's incredible. Ask people, ask for favors, ask for help, ask for advice. Share when you bomb. I know that, it's not always a popular, or it doesn't make you feel good about yourself when you share when something goes wrong. But hey, share. We share. I mean, we talk about our failures all the time. Keep it simple, right? Don't be afraid to start small. Tell your story. Whether you're successful or a failure, share your story. The thing about it is it gives other people the courage to try.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Fail forward. Celebrate your failures without fear, right? We have this whole idea that failure is horrible, but really it's a learning experience. Yeah. And then you talked a little bit about propagating a maker culture and trying to kind of permeate it into every single space. Yeah.
That fail forward is so important. That's so important. I mean, just today in the space, we had a 4th grade class in, and I challenged this group of students to come up with some better designs for part of the project. And one of them out of the 3 just kind of folded, and he just head down on the table, was non-communicative with me, and he bounced back. That was the important thing, is he pushed forward. So I even, talked to him privately, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry. I said what I said. But the fact that you came back to the table and you designed something even better, doesn't that make you feel good? And he shook his head, yeah. So that's just, that failing forward is so important, because of a lot of, I don't want to say all, but a lot of our students just, they get so stuck, and when they get in that mindset that they've done it wrong, or they can't do it, they just won't budge.
Well, and we've kind of trained them to be that way.
You think
so?
I
say we, I mean as an educator, but I also mean as a parent. I mean, I think about talking with my kids about school and how I have a much different attitude with my younger child based on what I know now than I do with my older child. But I mean, when kids bring home an F on their report card, or they bring home an F on an assignment, you automatically go into the, oh my gosh, well, what did you do? You didn't do enough. Instead of really looking at it as, okay, well, what skill did you not master? Okay, well, we're struggling with this. What can we do to fix it? You know, and so I think as a society we struggle with it.
Yeah.
It's a hard,
I agree.
thing. Do you want to talk just about your Edutopia article about how to start a school makerspace from scratch from the amazing Colleen Graves, who is the makerspace guru?
Yeah, well, I've been referencing it a little bit, but you know, in her article, and this is starting a school makerspace from scratch, and this will be, we can put this on our website. We can also, this I think will be in the video. And you know, she has some steps. Immerse yourself in that maker education. And again, because I've been in it for 2 years, I would still just keep immersing myself and learning more about self-contained classrooms, trying to talk with teachers who are doing making in the classroom. How long does it take? What does it look like? Second step is get others involved. And you've said this too, it's that collaboration, you know, and we got to teach, I teach the kids that collaboration is not cheating. In the makerspace, you work together. Yes, there will be times when you get to work alone, very rarely, but in here, it's a group effort. And it's been really neat to see the progression from first to second, second to third, third to fourth, and fourth to fifth of those kids, you know, now that we're in year 2, they're starting to really work together. It's really amazing.
And understand what collaboration really is.
Absolutely. So getting others involved, pulling a colleague in and saying, hey, I want to try this. Are you game? I know for a fact that if I were working with a former colleague of mine at the middle school I worked with, she would totally been on board, and we would have been doing this, and the 3 of us would have been knee deep in this stuff. Step 3, purchasing makerspace resources. And she has some guide here for, you know, like how you go about purchasing old electronics, you know, hitting up stores for donations, things like that.
All right, so since we are talking about a budget, that is the theme of our show, right? What are some ways that you have gotten materials for your space, or, you know, procured them without spending a lot of money?
Steal. I do a lot of stealing. I will go to businesses, and I went to Best Buy. Can I name drop? I just did. So I went to Best Buy and asked them for cardboard, and he said, "Oh, gladly take it." You know, he goes, "We fold it up every day and we get rid of it." Finding foam has been really hard. I you know, want some foam. I have a couple sheets of that stuff, but that's really hard to get. I mainly just purchase out of pocket.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
No, but we all do it. Just that's what classroom teachers.
Donations come into. You know, we'll put blurbs in the newsletter, and then we'll blast that out, and we'll get a couple of things like pipe cleaners, googly eyes. The
important things.
Yeah, small little bottles of tempera paint. Anything helps. And I have turned myself into a master at reusing things. So that's been kind of neat. My wife probably hates it, but so that purchasing on a budget is something that definitely you have to look into. Absolutely.
I agree. PTA, booster clubs, neighborhood associations, especially if you're specific about what you're looking for. You know, so for example, we're doing a project with making blankets. We need fabric. Do you have fabric that you can donate? We've got some wonderful parents that have dropped off loads of stuff that has really helped us. Garage sales, estate sales. I mean, you name it. I've been there, done it. Well, and even just asking the students, hey, everybody, can you bring a toilet paper roll tomorrow?
There you go.
Or
a cereal box,
exactly.
Shoebox, whatever you can bring in.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the bigger ticket items, the bigger things like the spheros and the electronics and things are all great and they're awesome. But at the end of the day, the project...
3D printer.
Right. They're amazing and cool.
Thousands,
but at the end of the day, the project really is about them designing and building and seeing the end result. And so it's okay if it's on the cheap. It's okay if it doesn't have the bells and whistles and lights.
I would even argue that giving the kids paper cups, a roll of tape, a couple feathers, some rope, string, craft sticks, and straws, and saying, here's what we're going to make today. Here's your challenge. That they will come up with some pretty creative things.
Yeah.
You don't need the 3D printer, and you don't need the,
No.
fancy drills and all that, and the hot glue guns, and making can
Hey.
be whatever. What?
You got to have a hot glue gun. You can't
Yeah.
have a hot glue gun.
Yeah, I almost need a holster. I have that thing on so much.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we made Rob a sash before that said when we went to the Maker Ed conference, we made Rob a sash that said he was the grand poobah of making. Now
Which I'm
apparently, but now apparently I need to make
The
you a
junior
holster.
grand poobah.
You're the junior. Okay.
Yeah, at
But now
best.
I need to make you a holster. I better figure out how to work with leather and get some different tools. If you're listening out there and you can help me with that, you might want to shoot me an email. Okay, so the last thing we usually talk about is what you're reading. I brought a book that actually I'm going to loan to Rob. It's called Educated by Design by Michael Cohen, who is known...
Well, you're going to loan me the other one that you have that I want to read.
Oh, yes. It's called The Tech Rabbi. So you talked about your wife being upset with you. My husband gets upset with me when the Amazon bill comes because any time a new cool book comes out, I have
That's
to order
reversed
it.
for us then.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
funny because as a librarian, you'd think I would just borrow these from the library, but then I go to the library and there's a huge wait list for the hold, and I don't have any patience. So anyway, but if you are interested in learning more about design process and working with students K-12, this is an amazing book, Educated by Design by Michael Cohen. He actually does all of his own artwork in the book too, if you want to check it out. But he just says some really important things about education that I think sometimes it's going to be annoying because you're going to hear the paper moving, but he talks about collaboration. He talks about leading by example, by collaborating with your colleagues, and creating interdisciplinary learning opportunities. You can show students what collaboration looks like. Plug for librarians, use your librarians. If you want to try something new and you don't know where to start, perfect person to grab and say, hey, let's collaborate. I really want to try this, whether it's technology or a new book or a new resource. You want to design and build, grab your librarian and say, hey, I think that you would be the perfect person to partner with me, and push them a little bit too. And hopefully you can collaborate and show your students how collaboration works out in the real world, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I gotta say, when you asked, what am I reading, and I said nothing before the show started, I'm reading nothing. I just finished Talk to Me.
Oh yes.
That book I talked about 5-6 episodes ago. I don't know. It takes me a while to finish books.
That's all right.
I'll read one and then get into another, and that one will get lost behind the nightstand, and then I'll find it and pick it up and read it again. So that was a really good book. It was just, I would recommend that book to your spouse. Read it for
everybody.
Yeah, basically it was amazing, and it was a short read. There's 6 chapters, and I cannot. It's like, it talks about consideration, validation, appreciation, and I can't remember the other components of her communication paradigm, but it has some practical ways that you can, like some applications, so examples how you can practice this with people. Really good.
And can I use it with students too, or just like my peers and my adults?
No, it's meant for. I think it's real. As I was reading it, I was in that mindset that it's for anyone really, educators, husband, wife. It's amazing. It was a really good read. But then I wanted to say, our teacher librarian brought me a book called Invent to Learn. Mm-hmm. She just received it. She was going to barcode it and put it in the resource library. And I was perusing through it, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is great. So I went and bought it.
Oh, you did?
So I don't need, unless I can return it and just read yours.
You can borrow my copy.
Then I'll save some bucks. But yeah, I just was reading a couple chapters, and the titles were amazing. And I just remember thinking, I've got to have this book, even because it talks about making in the classroom. And yes, the makerspace is a classroom. But again, if I'm in that mindset that, if I ever go back to a classroom, I want this as a resource.
Well, we want making to move out of a library or out of a traditional makerspace and move into. We want it to be everywhere.
We want it to permeate through the whole building.
So what are we talking about next time?
I think we've decided we're going to talk about student voice and student choice. So important. As an educator, our whole show is The Brave Educator, and that takes a lot of bravery, I think, to turn your classroom over to the students, and how does that look, and what does that sound like, and what does it look like? That can be kind of scary.
Agreed.
So,
And I went to a session at a conference recently that was really powerful, and so I have some information to share about student voice and what I know that I need to work on as myself as
I liked
an educator.
your tweet. Yeah, was it the tweet about the student voice?
I think I'm doing some awesome things, and I'm realizing, oh wow, I have a lot of work to do. Yeah. So it'll be great. We'll talk about it next time.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So thanks for joining us on The Brave Educator.
Thank you very much.
I'm Tracy Chen.
And I'm Rob Harsh.
And we hope you will listen to us again sometime soon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.